Okay, here's part 2 of the I Can Code a Reflection in code.irobot.com. And this is what we went over yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And let's look at the instructions. Okay, we pretty much reviewed these things yesterday. Take it further. I'm not sure if I talked about that or not. But the part I mostly want to look at is the rubric. Okay, a rubric is how something is going to be scored. So if you know how something's going to be scored, you can look at your work and you can kind of tell what score it's going to be before you turn it in to me. So the first category, there are 4 different categories, so they each count the same. None of them are weighted as being counting more than others. I can get the assignment completed on time and follow the directions. So this assignment is due tomorrow or Tuesday or whatever you want to do, check the due date. So this needs to be turned in on time. So if you turn it in on time or early and everything's complete, you would get 25 points. If it's almost complete, but it lacks a few details, or if it is complete, but you turn it in not tomorrow, but Thursday, then I'm taking points off because we got a lot of people that seem to think that time is an unlimited resource. Also, or almost complete, reread the directions and or it's not turned in by the due date. And then if you're still struggling, then that's going to give you a 15. I keep saying I need to get 80% of the people in the room, or 80% of you all, coding or doing some sort of coding semi well. And if you're not trying, I have to keep assigning these assignments. You need to be able to do this in order to do the next part. And this should be really easy. Okay, the next part, evidence of math being used rather than just trial by error. So if your numbers kind of make sense to where I can tell that you took 360 and divided by 4 and got 90, and it's evident that things kind of line up and you're centered on the page and it's symmetrical, then you would get this credit. So if you use comments to explain your thought process, that gets you to mastery. Yellow, almost there. Your numbers or shows look like you're using some math. Pictures centered on the page. And then if you're still struggling and you have something kind of flip-floppy and strange, then you're hanging out in the red zone. Okay, if you apply coding tasks such as loops and variables in your coding, that's going to give you a mastery if you're using it correctly. Now, if you just put the word and you say you've named 4 variables and you've given the same variable 4 different names and you don't ever do anything, that's not using the variable correctly. It needs to actually do something and function. Or if you put in a loop and you just make it loop one time, it would do the same thing without the loop. So you need to use it correctly. If you at least attempted to loop, but maybe you didn't save time or it have an effect on the code, that would get you down to an 18. And then if you are just kind of struggling along, you're still scoring those 15s. And then finally, efficient. So if your coding is the shortest number of steps to get something done, so instead of telling, here's what I'm looking for, some of you, if you want to go in a circle, will go arc 90, arc 90, arc 90, arc 90, and you'd put it down 4 times to where if you just do arc 360, that would be more efficient. That tells me you have a handle on what you're doing and you've kind of learned how to manipulate things and you're on the right track. Okay, if you have a few unneeded lines of code, that will get you the yellow zone. Orange, if you have several lines of unneeded code, and then once again, you have that struggling person. If you have that struggling person, you need to talk to your neighbor. You need to watch these videos. You need to practice circle and stick because those are very basic assignments. So that's the rubric that this is going to be graded on. The only other thing that I was going to show you for what we're doing, so whenever you're coding, let me refresh that because that's the bottom part of mine. Notice here, I put in a comment of what I'm doing first. That always helps whoever's reading the code. And when you have these cells, if you take the picture and notice it has cells, and somebody said that this was very hard because these boxes were much smaller than these boxes. And that's kind of bothered me too. I would agree with that statement. So then you kind of have to decide, okay, if one of these boxes is really this box, so maybe when it moves over 1, instead of moving it 16 or 1, maybe you're only going to move 8 centimeters, which is what I did. I did 8 centimeters to move a hole, or I did 4 centimeters, and I made them smaller than each one of these boxes. But you look at these boxes, and this should be pretty easy because it's already mapped out. Your ghost should be kind of boxy looking down here at the bottom. I gave you the real pictures of these to look at today, but it should be, and you can do the eyeballs. Look how this juts in, it comes out. If it was me, I would, because I'm right there, I'd go ahead and make that. Come on, and then pick up my marker, and then come up here, and go here to here, and come across. But I would go ahead because it's boxed in. The eyeballs on these ghosts shouldn't be round because they did it very box-like. Okay, so that's how your coding should look. This to me is pretty much, because all you're doing is transferring this and giving it in directions to the robot. Okay, it's just doing math and getting it done. A little tedious, that's why we're giving you the extra day, and we'll see what happens from there. So, I hope that helped, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.